That's a tough one. It's hard. It's hard. I'm not going to sit here and not acknowledge that some hurt that people have experienced causes excruciating mental and physical pain in their body. So I'm not going to pretend like forgiveness is an easy thing. I'm not going to pretend like I'm just going to use a scripture, you should forgive, or you won't be forgiven, and try to fear you into forgiveness. But I will say this, forgiveness is a choice. It's a choice. We all have a choice to forgive or not. There are some things that people are holding on to from past hurts and pains that are, from our past. There are things that are happening in our present. I also say that forgiveness is not always a one-time event. Sometimes we think of forgiveness as, I forgave that person, I said it. But sometimes you're triggered by that person and you have to choose to forgive them all over again. And that's one of the things I talk about, overcoming church hurt, in one of my podcasts. I had to choose to forgive. And I have to actively choose to forgive every time I feel something in my body when that person's around. It's not always a one-time event. And that's why when Jesus talked, when he was talking to the disciples, Lord, how often should we forgive our brothers? Should we forgive them 7 times? He said 70 times 7. That right there can expand to, sometimes you have to forgive that same person for that same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again because you're triggered by it. And that's okay. Forgiveness is definitely a choice. So let's just say it was molestation and that person took your innocence. And because that molestation happened, it has shifted your whole life and how you operate and what you can and cannot do and how you feel. And maybe you're paranoid, you suffer from anxiety. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but it's one of those things that you can work with. You can work at it. You can choose to say, I'm going to choose to forgive this person. I'm going to acknowledge how they hurt me, what they did and how it made me feel. And then I can ask God to cover me in this. And then when that person comes around again, and I get sick all over again, I can choose to forgive them all over again. Yes, forgiveness does set us free from them, but not all the time will it, stop the triggers. It won't all the time. And then one of the misconceptions of forgiveness is that, oh, well, if you forgive, you're not going to feel nothing no more. Not true. That's not always true. And that's one thing I thought. I was like, well, maybe I didn't forgive him because I keep feeling this and that. No, you're triggered. You're a human. You're a human. You ever cut your finger with the paper cut and you were very careful each time you did something with some paper because you remember that cut and you're like, oh, let me be careful. It's the same thing with your body. Your body can remember trauma. Your body can remember trauma, even after years and years after it happened. Certain times of the year, you may start to feel this feeling that comes upon you. And that's your trauma coming up, saying that I remember this time of year, so we got to protect ourselves. But I tell you this, forgiveness is not always a one-time event. You can choose to forgive someone daily. You can choose to forgive that person. And sometimes you got to say it out loud. I choose to forgive this person for what they did. It hurt me. It made me feel this. It affected my whole life. I feel like this. Sometimes I want to punch him in the face. Sometimes I want to say something. Sometimes I want to say some choice words. But I'm going to choose to forgive them. And I will continue to choose to forgive them every time it comes up inside of me. And sometimes it's that type of thing. And sometimes it is a one-time event. You forgive them and then you move on. So yeah, it's very important.
That is so good. I have a follow-up question, but I want to use this analogy. If forgiveness for the world was through Jesus,
Yes.
but Jesus didn't go to the cross.
Mm-hmm.
First, he was arrested on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
He was trialed Thursday night. He was beaten Friday morning. And then Friday morning, afternoon, he carried his own cross to Golgotha. He got nailed to it, and for 6 hours he was on the cross.
Yes.
So to back up what you're saying is like, it could be a one-time thing, but it's salvation for the whole world, and forgiveness for the whole world was through a process. And this process was going on since Genesis, when God said, like, the seed of the woman will be enmity with the seed of the serpent. And it took all the way until Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John.
Yes.
Forgiveness is a process.
It is. It's definitely a process. And I always think about that since we're talking about Jesus and crucifixion. Think about the Last Supper. Think about even before the Last Supper, when Jesus chose his disciples, he chose the one who was going to betray him. Have you ever read anywhere in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John where he told Judas, "You can't sit with us. Like, you go sit over there," or told Judas, scram, or treated him any different than anybody else? Now, keep in mind, like I said, this isn't for all situations that I'm speaking this, but just for maybe some betrayal may have happened to you. And so even at the Last Supper, he knew who was going to betray him, but he still showed him love anyway and broke that bread with him anyway and drank with him anyway. He slept. They all slept in the same spaces together. They were on boats together. He still taught him everything, and he knew that he was going to betray him. So sometimes that betrayal and everything like that, it's just, it's complicated. It's complicated, but it's a process. So we can look at that part of crucifixion and how he treated someone who betrayed him. And we can think about, even though he knew he died for him too. He knew he died for each and every last one of them, even the people who said, "I'm not going to believe in the white man Jesus," like some of us say. "I'm not going to believe in this Jesus of this different religion." He died for each and every last one of them, even though he knew some of us will not believe in him or betray him. So if Jesus can do it, I wonder how we can utilize some of that example and try to apply it to our lives.
That is so good. And my follow-up question is, because we're talking about how a person can forgive another person. How does someone forgive themselves? Because sometimes it's our own actions that led us to being hurt. So how can we forgive ourselves?
That's huge. It's the same process. I choose to forgive myself. I choose to forgive myself. Some of our actions have put us in places. Some of our decisions have put us in relationships, environments, a whole bunch of things that may have exposed us to things that we weren't ready for. And so that guilt and shame sometimes looks like we are angry at other people when it's actually us. So as we choose to forgive other people, sometimes we have to choose to forgive ourselves. So even let's just say it's a friendship betrayal. I trusted this person with this, and this, and they knew all my details about me, and I opened up to them, and look how they did me. There's a part of you that says, "I couldn't believe I didn't see that." There's a part of you that may feel guilty because you didn't pick up on the warning signs. So as you choose to forgive that person, you have to choose to say, "Lena, I choose to forgive myself for not listening to the warning signs. I choose to forgive myself for thinking this person was my all in all. I choose to forgive myself for putting someone on a pedestal." And so it's the same type of process, but then you internalize it. And remember, we talk about our feelings during forgiveness process. You just don't forgive. You got to talk about how it affected you. What did it do to you? How did it make you feel? What did you want to do after it made you feel? And you got to go through that whole process. And then let's talk about more about the forgiveness. So it's a whole process.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so good. If you don't mind, one more follow-up question.
No, you're fine.
Because sometimes we hold unforgiveness towards God. Because God did not come through as we thought he was come through. Like, I'm 25, I'm not married yet. I'm 32, I don't have a child yet. Or I suffered through a miscarriage. Yeah. Or why will you allow me to marry this person who's abusing me physically, emotionally, verbally? Why did you allow this to happen? And then now we start holding bitterness towards God. So how can a person forgive God? And I know some people's taboo, like, why do you need to forgive God? And because, God is all holy. We're not saying he's not all holy, but right. The matter of the fact is, sometimes we get disappointed in God for not doing what we thought he was going to do. So how can a person walk in forgiveness towards God?
Okay. So first I'm going to ease my hand back up there and say, how many times have I been angry at God? And it's such a taboo word to say or phrase to say. You can't be mad at God. Why would you question him, this and that? it's okay to question God in a sense of what's going on. I don't understand. Have things happen and I'm like, why did this happen? I'm confused here. You know, that doesn't make sense to me. Some things that don't make sense, how people are millionaires and so no money and don't pay no tithes, no offering, and then Lord, I'm barely making it, help me, Jesus.
They almost
we
cut
don't.
the electricity bill, the electricity bill
Yeah,
coming
exactly.
through.
Why does this happen? We can't comprehend. We don't understand. We don't understand. And sometimes it's okay to ask God, like, help me to understand that. And sometimes we do get mad at God because of what happened. Because if we look at the grand scheme of things, we can say, you're the only one who can orchestrate this to happen. You're the only one who can allow this to happen. It's the same process. God, I choose to forgive you. I choose to forgive myself. Lord, this made me feel like this. Sometimes have a conversation. I like having a conversation with God. A lot of times it happens in my laundry room. I don't know why. But God, I help me understand. I'm upset right now because this is unfair. I feel like I am not getting justice. I feel like that person got over me. I feel like people think that I'm scary or I'm a punk. I feel like you allowed this to happen and it wasn't fair. And I'm angry about it. It makes me feel like you don't love me. Say all that stuff and then watch God work. Watch him work. That's relationship right there. Relationship is being able to go to your father and talk to them about what's going on in a humble place and not out of a place of, disrespect. Sometimes I got a little disrespectful. I might have raised my voice and I'm like, okay, wait. God, I didn't mean to raise my voice, but I'm just trying to figure out. I literally have had conversations like that. So that's my humanity. My humility, apologize, because I'm like, I wouldn't talk to my daddy like that. So I'm definitely not going to talk to you like that. So those places, and I told him how it made me feel. And then I had to watch God work. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for an answer, in the meantime, while I'm waiting for clarity, in the meantime, while I'm waiting for justice, in the meantime, while I'm waiting, Lord, let me be found working. But Lord, in the meantime, I'm going to forgive you. Even though if that's what we need to do, okay. If that's how we need to say it, okay. Lord, I forgive you and I forgive myself, whatever it may be.
Yeah, because what people need to realize is just because you're offended does not mean the person you're offended at did anything wrong. It's just you're
exactly. Exactly. So when you say you forgive God, it's not as if he did anything wrong. It's supposed to help you. And sometimes that's what it is. It's to help you. Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content, subscribe over here and watch the next video over there. God bless you.